like to introduce our speaker today. I'm pretty excited. This is someone that I know personally, and somebody who's done some amazing things for Utah and for those in poverty. So Jen Nibley is the director of Brigham Utah. She leads the Circles initiative in Utah. If any of you know me, I talk about Circles all the time because it's awesome. So, and she works to ensure that each individual and family in our communities thrive. Jen is a certified Bridges Out of Poverty trainer, certified True Colors trainer, and a regional trainer for Circles USA. She's worked with regional and statewide nonprofits for more than 20 years, including 15-year focus on to families living in poverty. Jen has a BA in Public Relations from Brigham Young University and studied the Masters of Communication and Leadership program with Gonzaga University. So we're going to turn the time over for her today. She's going to do a presentation on workplace stability. So we'd like to welcome Jen.
Thank you. Apologize for advertising during your announcements. I tried to get the screen black out, but it didn't work. So this workplace stability is based off of Bridges Out of Poverty concepts. Have any of you, by any chance, I know Provo offers Bridges Out of Poverty trainings regularly. Have any of you been to one of those before? Okay. I hope so. The food bank down here in Provo, they do them monthly, so if you're interested in maybe learning a little bit more, I think it's a 90-minute one they do every month. This is based off the concepts of that, however, it's focused on employers. Do any of you have any kind of management or supervisory position with your employment? Some of you? Okay, so this could apply to you maybe in some ways more than others, but hopefully everybody here can appreciate that. It's going to be a quick overview. This can be a 4-hour training, and I won't keep you here that long by any means, and you'll kick me out before that. So, we're going to talk about, when it comes to poverty, oftentimes when we talk about poverty, everyone thinks, oh, it's a social service thing. It's a volunteer thing, you're just trying to be kind, which, yes, all those things, I hope all those things is true. However, it's an economic concern. People don't always recognize that connection, that low income and poverty is an economic issue in our communities. Families and individuals living in poverty often have higher health challenges, higher health care costs. We have, I'm not going to list all of it for the sake of time, but there's all these issues that ends up, if you know someone who maybe doesn't get their little warm fuzzies and care about the community in that way, and they care about dollars, we can still talk to them and say, hey, okay, you care about dollars, let's talk about dollars and why this should matter to you, even though in my heart I wish it mattered to your heart also, but if it doesn't, we can speak to your wallet, it's okay, we'll choose. Basically, we go through first, because oftentimes I present this to businesses, and like, that's all nice, I need my bottom line to work, and I need to have money, and so we start with, let's talk about the reality of turnover. So oftentimes if you look at turnover, people will be like, oh, it's okay, I can get those entry-level individuals anytime, come and go, all you want, it doesn't matter to me. So we make them put it on paper how much it might matter to them, because I don't think a lot of them always recognize that. And so we'll have them go through and they'll look at hard costs and soft costs of turnover when it comes to work. So hard costs, what could be some hard costs? Like easy to track dollars tied to hiring someone. Anyone have an idea? Training, yep. Any other ideas?
Background checks, testing.
Yep, testing, background checks, if you have to post it, what?
Overtime by the other employees to cover the missing.
Oh, so we're getting into soft costs there, which is what we also want to talk about both, but yeah, the dollars you have to hand over, right? You have to pay for tests, you have to pay for advertising, you have to pay for all these things. But then you also have to pay for training, you have to pay for the people that already work for you to like review the job description and post it. You have to pay for people to look at all the applications, you have to pay for the people who sit on panels and interview. And so we make them go through and say, all these people involved in every time you turn this over, how much do they make an hour, how many hours is it taking up? Also recognizing that every time somebody leaves, you lose a lot of productivity because everyone's like, oh, we're gonna miss you, so sorry, where are you going? All this conversation goes to that. Then we have goodbye parties, then we have welcome lunches, then we have, you know what I mean? So it's all this stuff, and so we make them write it down and then we look at how much is this costing us? And it's a lot bigger than they think. And quickly, this is just little numbers, some of them get a lot bigger than that. So Society for Human Resource Management, the average cost, they'll say, is $3,500 every time you replace an entry-level person. Another one says entry-level is $11,000. That was in 2012, if you do hard and soft costs. Others will say it's about 75% of someone's annual salary because it takes so long for them to get up to full productivity, and so their teams have to cover for them and all of it drops. Basically, we just get to a big dollar thing at the bottom and say, this is how much you're costing yourself by just replacing individuals all the time. And we speak about entry level, but it's not always entry level that's a concern. So we get them to just keep that number in mind. There was one, it was a national restaurant chain, but they had almost 100% turnover every year, right? It's just waiters, waitresses, line cooks, all this, almost 100%. They realized it was like $360,000 a year. And we're like, oh, how about you? Because the thing is, some of our solutions might cost money, right? So we're gonna be like, well, you're wasting this much. A fraction that I can help you out. Okay, so this is how we talk about this. How many of you have ever, like, your work life never affects your home life, right? Like nothing, like a bad day at work, but you go home and like, I can still be happy with you. Is that right? Is that how you go? Does your home life, like you get in a big fight with someone at home or something doesn't go right, it doesn't affect work. Okay? You're like, not true. Not affected. The reality is that most people know that that is true, but we like to pretend it's not, right? And so when we talk to employers, sometimes they'll tell us, well, what happens at home is their business. That's not my thing. I was like, okay, cool. It affects you. Might not be your thing. You might want to put your hand in the sand all you want, but it affects you. And so what we talk about is if you have instability at if someone is unstable in their home life, it will affect you if you're their employer, okay? Let's talk about someone that has daily instability or regular instability in their life. You could look at low-income individuals because that's also probably really relevant there. But some of the things that they spend their time and energy on is just a lot of, if you notice, what do you notice about a lot of these things? Transportation, jobs, family, legal issues, criminal justice, debt, housing, clothing, food, children, childcare, entertainment. Do you notice anything that
It all costs money.
they don't cost money necessarily, right? Just a lot of time. They could cost money. And a lot of those things, are they extravagant things they're spending all that energy and time on? Yeah, we got a lot of basics up there, right? Now everybody, whether you're long-term stable or pretty unstable, everyone eats food, last I checked, right? Most people need food, everyone has clothing. It's just how much of your time is taking up. So this is how much of their time and energy, what are they spending it on? So if we look at somebody that's more stable, do you notice anything different about what's taking up their time and energy? Hobbies, extras. It's those extras. Are they still eating food, wearing clothes, staying in the house, I hope, right? So the reality is when individuals go home, what they're spending their time on, whether they're stable or less stability in the home at that time, differs. But if you have somebody that's struggling with basic needs, I'm just going to say someone who's really upset because they lost some game at recreation, and somebody who's upset because they're going to have the water turned off is probably going to have a little bit different reaction in your workplace, right? And so it's like, let's meet people's basic needs, recognizing that affects us as employers. Super long-term stability, so your executive levels, I mean, that's even more of a difference in what they're spending their time and energy on. They still are eating food, wearing clothes, all that stuff, but then they're spending time on philanthropy, board meetings, that type of stuff. So what we like to point out is that when there's a pain point for me individually, as in someone that might be struggling at home, there's a pain point for that business. Even though we don't care what you do at home, it's your own deal. Who cares, right? So let's say cars are transportation. Let's say that I struggle to have transportation needed in my life to get to where I need to get to. What for me individually could be tough about that?
You might be late.
Yeah, constantly late, less productivity. Just me personally as an individual.
If you have to get home from work, I learned to where I work, and sometimes if you're out late, it's like you just want to sleep and you're exhausted.
Yeah, it could be walking, especially schedules, if my schedules slightly get off if I'm using public transportation. Anything else? We'll put up some ideas up here. So, as an individual that has price of gas, that could be a pain point, right? Bus lines don't run at correct times, public transportation, maybe I can get to work, but then the buses stop at 6 and I get off at 8. That's not helpful. And so I have to worry about keeping up the cars. My own car has been in the shop so much, like shop guys lately, and I have friends. It's not a good way to just, go walk to your office. So, yeah, I know, thanks. So, turnover and tardiness. This is the business point, okay? I don't care, it's your deal. If you have a car issue, you need to take care of it. But the reality is, I have people not showing up, I captured tardiness, and then sure enough, I end up having turnover. And then turnover starts into those dollars, right? The reality is that individuals at different levels of stability have different ways of operating in life. And also, you see it in the workplace. So what you might see, like art, painting, art, posters and art, whatever you might see in a warehouse, is that going to be the same kind of thing as you'll see in an executive office? They often both have stuff hanging up there, right? Clothing accepted on front lines and or entry-level positions. Do they differ oftentimes than maybe the boss, managers, executive level? Language, what you can kind of get away with and what you can't, might differ depending on whose room and office you're in. But we come together in workplaces and we have individuals at all of these different levels, all of these different ways of operating. We like to pretend we all understand each other and we do things the same. But we don't. Right? And oftentimes you have those at the executive level that have like long-term stability at home and fancy art, fancy clothes and all this stuff. And they're writing out how this business is going to run, but they have all their employees' lives look nothing like that person's life. We decided how we're going to run as a business. Right? And so there's often this disconnect that we'll find. Let's talk about resources. So we talk about, I'm doing like super high, fast-paced intro, and if you're interested in any of this, there's books, you can go to a longer training, you can go to a Bridges Out of Poverty training, or you can just say, how can I use this to help my community? Let's talk about resources. So we talk about individuals with stability issues at home, or possibly poverty issues, like living in poverty, just not having enough to meet basic needs. What is the first thing you think of that they need? What are they missing? If they're in poverty, what are they missing? Money, yeah. We like to be like, well, money, you're missing money, so I'll give you money and I'll be okay, right? The reality is, there's a lot of resources. Here we have 11 that we consider essential resources that help us function and be stable in our lives. Social capital and support systems, community, coming together with people who can support you. Language, right, the way we talk and interact with each other, or our ability to do that. Mental and cognitive functioning, emotional ability, so that's how you can respond. I always like to say, who in here have at least multiple siblings and or multiple children? Okay, I want you to think of a really tough situation. I don't know, maybe they break both their legs or something, that's fun. It happens to both of them. How many of you can think of who's handling that the best? Just right off the bat. You're like, yeah, I know who's going to do okay, who's really going to struggle, right? Our emotional responses to life, it doesn't matter how much money you have, that can be a benefit to you or it can kind of hinder you in how you can progress in life. It doesn't matter where you come from. Finance, yeah, that is there. Money, finances, that can help us be a resource to us. Hidden rules. So I didn't talk about the hidden rules that much. It's really fascinating, and they do talk about it in the Bridges Out of Poverty training. If you'd ever be interested in going to that, it just helps us recognize why we do things differently. And it's those unspoken rules that if you're part of a group you know about, And if you're not part of the group, you don't. And when you walk into a group, you kind of get the looks and everything, like, yeah, I don't belong here. That's because you're running into people's hidden rules, right? They're everywhere, they're in the workplace too, though. And so we think, oh, we all come together, we're at the same, employer, we're all kind of similar, but we're not. And so somebody's bumping into somebody else's hidden rule, right? It can cause friction, often have a good cause turnover, actually, just from that alone. Relationships and role models, it's easier to do something if you've seen someone else do it, right? So those of you who, we have individuals who've gone to college versus first-time college individuals, it's fascinating how different the challenges are there, right? Individuals are like, what's a credit? I didn't know, what is this credit thing? And then someone else is like, oh yeah, just showing up because someone pointed the way and I don't have to think about it. So it's all different. Motivation and persistence, integrity and trust, spiritual beliefs, physical capabilities. So I want you right now to think of something. I'm going to take, I don't have a lot of time, but I like this. I'm going to do it anyways. I want you to think of something your grandparents passed down to your parents. That's one of these things. One of these kind of resources, like some kind of, benefit. Is it their hardworking focus? Is it kindness? Is it whatever it is. Something that your grandparents, is it a ton of money? Whatever it is. Grandparents passed down to your parents. Just think of one thing, not a lot. And then turn to your neighbor or someone around you and just tell them what it is. Really quick. If I don't see you talking, you know you're going to do it. So, just some kind of strength. Is it motivation? Is it hardworking? Is it language? Can you speak the language that you live in the country? And then following up just on that, think of something your parents passed on to you. What's something that, as a resource that's listed up here, there's a variety of types that your parents have passed down to you. Just tell your neighbor, it's good. Okay. How many of you said money? There we go. But oftentimes, we think like that when it comes to stability, we'll think of like that's the only thing that matters. The reality is there's a lot of things that play into that, and we've had a lot of emphasis on this. But two people that don't have money and their ability to get money often is driven by all these other resources too. Oh, I know. What I do like to point out though, so we don't start thinking like, well, I'm just not going to hire anyone that's not like me, and I'm not going to work with anyone that doesn't have a stable household. That's not what we want to have happen necessarily. I did a lot of training, I can argue why, but these are all the qualities that typically individuals that are dealing with day-to-day instability, they have these qualities. If you're an employer or a manager, would you want someone on your team that has these qualities? Yeah. They're so smart. They're amazing problem solvers. They're so creative. They can get things done in ways that no one else can imagine and quickly. However, a lot of their energy is being spent at trying to meet basic needs at home. So if we can help that be more stable, we can benefit from a lot of these qualities they've developed, especially in the workplace or just as a community, right? As a community, because if somebody's worried about housing, they're worried about where I'm going to get my food, or I'm spending all my time walking and being on public transportation, getting places, we don't get their time as a community. Like, we don't get to engage with them as much. We don't get to benefit from all the qualities and the talents they have. And so it's easy to just go, yeah, but that's their thing. But we're also missing out in so many ways. I'm not going to get into this. It's about hiring. So basically, people look at things future or immediate and concrete and abstract. And individuals with different stability tend to have strengths in areas. But oftentimes, someone that has ongoing instability at home, you can imagine the stress of that when they go into the workplace. We like to call that hidden talents. Because again, you're not accessing their benefit. You can't see what they have to offer. They've spent so much of it meeting basic needs at home. So there's a lot of times you're not even sure what kind of talents you have among your entry-level workers unless we can give them a little more stable at home so we can benefit from work. But I'm just not going to go into that. The demands of workplace also, I do want to touch on this because I think it's important and we'll be wrapping up. We can ask some questions. But the demands of a position matter. So oftentimes we'll see employers that will be like, oh, somebody's worked here a long time, they're really fabulous, right? Maybe entry level. And then you put them in management and you just watch them fall apart. And I think a lot of it, employers don't train nearly as much as they need to. But they also, it's hard to recognize the demands of a position, right? You took somebody from having peers to all of a sudden, they might not have friends because they're the boss, right? You took individuals who, when you're entry level, a lot of the communication in the workplace is verbal, right? I can verbally, really great, but all of a sudden you get into management, you start doing reports, you start doing more emails, you start doing a lot more written communication, and that can have a different, you can be an amazingly intelligent person, but if your writing skills aren't up to a certain level, then that's the way you look to other people and affect workplace stuff. Money, right? We have entry level, usually they're just at your workplace, hopefully they get there and they stay there. And as they move up, you might be sending them off to conferences, you might be sending them out to other meetings, and to assume somebody could pay just even the $100, $200 hold my room fee, right? Of course my workplace is paying for it, but I still, those incidentals, they're gonna put a hold on my card or my bank account for so much money. And sometimes employers take for granted, somebody might not have those resources, it doesn't mean that they can't do the job, but you also could be putting them in a position that they don't have natural, I don't know, not natural, but they don't have in their life that stuff that helps them meet the demands of the job. And so we've seen others, well, oftentimes too, it's just how do we help people be successful as we move them up? Are you really helping them just because someone's been there a long time? Does it really mean that they can be a manager? Does it really mean they understand how to do that? And if not, are you training them? Because sometimes we're like, well, I don't know why, they were the best worker ever, you know, a manager, they're the worst. We just fired them. I was like, can I talk about how smart you are? But no. Because I don't usually get to talk to them. So you have pay for hours, then you get up into that really great salary thing, and it can just take up your whole life. It doesn't matter, it's just required, right? So you go from 40 hours to maybe 70 hours, who knows? That affects your life differently. So we talk about how that can affect others. We also, after we go through a lot of this, and I didn't go through a lot of everything because it's a 4-hour training, I just really hit tips of it. Then we say, what can you do? And they all start at that point and say, what can I do? And we're like, yeah, let's plan that. Especially when you have this big dollar cost that you're wasting on turnover, or you like to spend it, I don't know, maybe you like to do that. But all these dollars you're spending on turnover, you could use a portion of that to have some kind of solution to stabilize families. And we've seen some really creative things that businesses have done. Some have done shuttle systems, right? Maybe public transportation, we're off the line, we're not really meeting the transportation needs. And you could be like, well, that's an extra cost. Yeah, but guess what? All of a sudden their turnover drops a lot. They're saving more money by helping people actually get to work. So oftentimes that's what this workplace stability is about, is stability at home and helping individuals who are struggling to meet basic needs in your life, and especially under your employee, is to your benefit, even if all you care about is dollars, right? So, in a nutshell, that's it. Any questions? That was super fast. Did any of this make any sense? Yes. Okay. Good. Do any of you have questions? No?
Can we get access to this slideshow, or do you have a website that has this information? or something like that?
No, well, I can send a PDF with the slideshow. You can't insert, you have to be careful about distribution. I use my license to trade.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine.
But if you just want to look at it yourself, I'm fine sending it to him. You can send it out. Just if you want to distribute it, there are books. I brought a few. I'll just leave them. They're usually like $72 or something. Someone can read through that, or if you know someone who you're like, I want you to know this, feel free to hand them the book, or you can get in contact with me and you can get more books. You can buy them yourself. I can get them a little less if you buy it. But they're not very fat, so it's nice to read. But yeah, so I'll send that.
Jen, what do you think about $15 minimum wage raise?
It's complicated. Like most solutions, it is complicated, right? Overall, I would support it. I mean, basically, I would support it. Our minimum wage currently is worse than it was in the 70s, equivalent, so that just makes no sense, and our productivity is massively higher, so why, we just know that the spread of distribution, where those dollars go to the top and the bottom is huge now. So we have a lot more productivity, we have all this stuff. People at the bottom don't benefit from that currently at all. And honestly, they can't live. You're going to guarantee individuals are unstable. They have a lot of instability at home, and you're at risk that anything at home goes tips the wrong way. There's not enough stability to hold that, so you'll probably lose them as an employee, and all kinds of things will keep, it has issues. The challenge with that is we also have the benefit cliff. Are you guys familiar with benefit cliffs? So you could be on SNAP or Medicaid or something, you make a little bit and you lose more than you make, right? So there's this gap of services and help where somebody actually, by taking a raise, they can maybe make $200 more a month, but they lose maybe $3,200 in support. Everyone's like, well, I don't know why they won't get a job and just try harder and get promotions. I was like, well, yeah, I've seen all of you in your financial planning, and trust me, you put that on paper, you're not doing this either. And it's not to say we don't need a safety net, it's not to say don't move forward and help, but it's really hard to move forward if it hurts your ability to support your family. So it's one of those balancings. Other questions?
If you were to give, from, especially in our valley, one or two things that businesses that are those things you see common, or does it just vary by employer? Things they can do to make a big difference?
I mean, it is by employer. It's too hard to just say across the board to everyone. I think it's important for them to recognize money. I don't know why this should be hard. They care about it in their own account, but in the state of Utah, across Utah County, Davis County, and Salt Lake County, you're even higher to afford a two-bedroom. Most people in Utah have large families, so 2 bedroom is very modest. A 2-bedroom fair market rent, you have to make $17 an hour. And you can split it up, right? 2 of us together, we can make $17 an hour. That's easy if you make low dollars here. But the problem is if you have anyone under the age of 13 who needs childcare, you actually need to make more. It almost has to go up by 30% of what you make if you have child's care on top of that. And so it gets to be really challenging to be like, well, I don't care if I don't pay them more. It's like, okay, but they're going to be homeless. Or there's going to be like 6 families in one house. And that's going to be hard, and then all kinds of issues start. So my thing is, if they just started looking at how much does it cost a family afford, right? $50,000, just to meet my basic needs without needing welfare. Meet my basic needs. That's not life insurance. It's not all these extra fun stuff. Basic needs, right? Family of 4 to make $50,000. You look at that hourly wage, and if they have one breadwinner, one person working, what is that? Or if they have 2, and then you childcare, well, let's bump that up. But it's not about me, you, and who deserves what. It's just like somebody's employed with you full time, and they can't afford to live in a cheap 2-bedroom apartment. I'm sorry, but you sound like a crappy employer. That's just kidding. But I would work for you. I think sometimes it's just we don't have to get into where we're going to bump heads, which is politics and how we solve the problem, but let's identify the problem. And the reality is, if they work for you full time, you know how much money they get. Is that enough to pay for a house? And if not, well, good. You're keeping all these families really struggling. That's okay. However you want to go about it. Yes. Any questions? Look, I've used up a lot of your time already. Okay. Well, I'll leave brochures and cards and some of those books in the back because I do have to take off. But I don't know, distribute them. Go do good wherever. Be nice. Help people. Be good.
Yeah. Isn't she amazing? She's got a lot of knowledge in these things. I am super passionate about this. So just to give you a quick, because I know we don't normally do this, but because this is my passion as well, I have been involved in the Circles program for about 2.5 years. And when I first attended my Bridges Out of Poverty training, it blew my mind. Like, just to know that flip effect is huge. Like, when you think of, like Jen described, people not wanting a raise, I have actually experienced this in my own life. I've been in management for a long time, and I had an employee who we were giving about a 50-cent raise, and she came to me in tears. She said, "Please don't do that. Please don't give me that raise." And I was like, who wouldn't want a raise? Did not understand the flip effect at the time. In fact, she ended up losing her job because we didn't give her the raise, and then you take it wrong as an employer because you're like, who doesn't want this, right? So this training, I'm really, really passionate about. Like, if you share this with your employers, like whatever level you are at, it's just amazing to share with them. In fact, when I took this 2.5 years ago, the wage to do a two-bedroom apartment was $15.32. I remember this amount because I came and I shared it in a board meeting. Because my managers were not even close to that. And there were 2 single mothers working there who were well below that, probably 35-40% below that. And I shared this and said, hey, just so you guys know, I attended this training and this is what I learned. Now, of course, my boss did not enjoy that moment. And he said, why would you say that in front of them? And I said, because you need to pay them more. And guess what? He gave them a raise that went over that $15.32. So this knowledge can save people's homes. It can save their life. I mean, think about the stress that you take when you get somebody to have a livable wage. Their confidence goes up, their productivity goes up, they're going to stay with you longer. So anyway, that's just my quick, if anybody ever has questions on this, please come talk to me because poverty is real and we struggle with poverty here in Utah County. I don't have the statistics on that, but it's a lot. Jen has the statistics.
No, I just want to say, and this is by the state's own numbers, 30% of the children in the state of Utah are risk of being poverty. By all indications, 1 in 3 kids, they think, unless something changes, most likely be poverty. That's
So for those of you who may not have heard that, she said that in the state of Utah, 30% of children are at risk for being in poverty.
as adults.
As adults, that they'll grow up and be in poverty. And there are 2 types of poverty, we didn't discuss that at all, but there's different issues with both of those. I will say I helped with the Angel Foundation and deliver gifts, so Sub for Santa and that kind of thing. So the United Way this year did 5,000, I think it was 5,200 something, children that they helped who would not have had Christmas in our neighborhoods. I mean, this was solely Utah County that those numbers came from, which at first they were estimating 3,000. So they did over 5,000 children. I mean, that's just huge. And you know there are others who went with other organizations, who had family members, churches, other people pitching in, or those who just didn't do anything because parents didn't know about the resources. So I encourage everybody in our community. You'll notice that all of our, not all of our, but a lot of our, and I will excuse Jen, she has another obligation, and we are grateful that she came today, but we'll release her so that she can head out to her other obligations. Thank you so much. I will just say that I handle all of our volunteering, and all of our volunteering so far works with those in poverty. The Tabitha's Way, and then for those of you who are new, on the even months, the fourth Sunday of the even months, we go and do lunch, just here at Provo Food and Care Coalition, and feed the homeless. We are the highest attended Sunday of the month. We feed about 125 people that are homeless, and that's a whole nother perspective, because homeless means all sorts